Welcome to the Veterans History Project. My name is Walter Little. It's March 19th, 2016, and we're at Camp Withicum in Clackamas, Oregon. And today we have Chandra York with us. Chandra, welcome.
Hi.
Good to have you here.
Yep, thank you.
So, where were you born?
I was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota,
And where'd you grow up?
in Oregon.
How'd you get from Minneapolis to Oregon?
My parents, after I was born, they just really wanted to move to Oregon and start a life there. And so they kind of did a cross-country trip and moved to Oregon.
So just because they came over here, you decided to join them?
Well, you know, I was one, so I kind of had to go where they went, so.
Not a lot of options at
Yeah.
that age. So you grew up in Oregon. Mm-hmm. Where?
Well, originally I started in Portland, and then my dad's job moved, and so then I grew up in Southern Oregon. So I moved in Southern Oregon right around the age of 12.
So where'd you go to high school then?
North Medford.
North Medford. What'd you want to be when you grew up, when you were in high school?
Well, at the time I thought I wanted to be a lawyer because I thought that would make good enough money. And I like to argue with my parents quite a bit, so I thought being a lawyer was what I wanted to do, but I wasn't 100% sure.
So you graduated high school, then what happened?
I was accepted at Oregon State University, and I started my first year of college there. I was the first of any of my siblings to go to college, so it was a really big deal for my family, and started kind of my first year of school.
So tell me about your siblings. How many?
Well, I have 3 older brothers that I did not grow up with. They're half brothers. And then I have 4 siblings. There was 4 of us that grew up together. So I was the oldest. I had a younger sister that had same mom, same dad. And then I had a stepsister and a step brother.
And was your family in the military?
Yeah, my grandfather actually is in one of the cases upstairs, story about him. He is Leonard DeWitt. He was in the Army, and they did a statue of him in McMinnville for the, he's called the Helmet Hero. And there's a big story about him, but he was a Korean veteran. And then my uncle, he was a SEAL on my stepmother's side. And then on my mom's side, we have lots of cousins and stuff that are in the Air Force and Army. And then my father was a Navy Seavey. And my little sister joined after I did. And she's out now. She was an electrician's mate. And then my little brother, he just got home from the Philippines last night. So, and he's also in the Navy.
That's quite a bit.
Yeah.
So you're at college,
Mm-hmm.
then what happens?
My dad gets deployed to Iraq, and he was telling me I'm getting ready to deploy, and we had an arrangement that he would pay half of the college tuition. Like whatever I saved up, he would match basically. So I had saved up enough to go to my first year of college. My dad matched that, and he told me he wasn't going to be able to afford it because he was going to be taking a pretty big pay cut by getting deployed. So I had to figure out college on my own, and my dream was to get my education. I knew that was really important to me, and I had no idea how I was going to do it. So I started throwing out ideas and decided I would look into the military, and I went into some recruiting offices and kind of said, what can you offer me? And the Navy said, we have a $20,000 sign-on bonus. The Air Force said, we'll give you $10,000, and the Army said, well, you'll just join. We're not giving you anything. So I kind of went around to the different branches and settled with the Navy and thought, well, you know, they really are about education, and I just thought, why not?
So what did the Navy offer you?
The Navy said they gave me a $20,000 sign-in bonus as long as I signed an 8-year contract, 6 years reserves, 2 years inactive. And they said I could be pretty much anything I wanted because my scores were pretty good on the ASVAB. So they wanted me to be like nuclear and go into the nuclear program, but I said no. I kind of looked over all the jobs and decided right then and there I wanted to be a military police officer. It sounded exciting, it sounded fun, and I know my dad really wanted me to be a CB, but I was going to go be a really cool kick-ass cop. So I decided to be a military police officer.
So what was attractive about being a police officer?
I have no idea. I just wanted to help people, and I knew that, being a police officer, you really help your community. Police officers not only have mad respect for the law and authority, but they also save lives. They go out there, they make sure that people are being safe. They get drunk drivers off the road. They're enforcing the law in our communities, and I just thought that was really great. And yeah, I didn't want to be a lawyer anymore, but I still kind of wanted to make sure there was justice in it.
So you wanted to be in a position that served people?
Yep.
Rather than just a military occupation? Mm-hmm. And so where'd you go to basic?
Great Lakes.
Great Lakes? Mm-hmm. And that lasted how long?
I can't remember. I think, it was a couple months, 2 to 3 months, somewhere around there.
What time of year?
I went in June or July, and I think I got out in around October.
That's the time to go, because it gets cold up there.
Yeah, which my sister found out when she went. Yeah, I avoided all that.
And then after that, what happened?
They flew me to Texas on accident. There was 8 of us that got sent to the wrong place. So we were in Texas, and they go, well, we sent you to the wrong place. You're all supposed to be in Virginia. So we kind of hung out there for a couple of weeks and cleaned and planted flowers and did like grunt work. And then they sent us to Virginia, where we started cop school.
And how long did that last?
That lasted 3 months, so it was in Virginia, and it was actually taught by an outside agency. So we would like bus to this outside agency, and we'd go to class all day from we'd have lunch and dinner in this class, and then we would kind of get on the bus and go back to the base, and then we'd run a whole bunch, and they'd have us out running at night because at that time, military police, everyone had to be the most fit, the fastest, strongest, everything. So we were running like 10 miles a night. I came back, I had dropped like 30 pounds or something during cop school. I was 124, and I had muscles, 6-pack, and all kind of, I was tiny, but packed a good punch.
Well, being military police, you wanted to pack a good punch when you needed to.
Yeah, for sure, and I did, yeah.
So, what kind of things were included in your training? You had to learn how to basically arrest somebody. Mm-hmm. You had to learn what the laws and stuff were,
Yep.
did you?
Yep.
So, what else?
Basically, we had to be master at arms, so that's with weapons. We learned, we spent weeks on rifle, shotgun, 9mm. We would take apart our guns, put them back together, clean them. We spent a long time learning SWAT training, going, breaking down doors and making sure that we were sweeping things correctly. A big part of our training at that time was anti-terrorism, because that was the main focus of why they needed so many military police. The majority of us were at some point going to be deployed, and we knew that going into that field. We were pretty much the masters at detecting anything, before a big incident happened. So we were looking under cars with mirrors. We were 100% training on combat and hand-to-hand combat. I was OC sprayed, and had to go through an obstacle course, and had to take down people and use hand maneuvers and mock takedowns and pressure points and things like that.
OC sprayed, what's that?
That is basically pepper spray times 10. It's used to take down bears. You have to have a license to carry it. In order to get a license, you have to get sprayed with it. It's extremely powerful, and it's very painful. Feels like glass in your eye when you get sprayed. So it's...
Does it affect your breathing too?
Affects everything. When I got sprayed, I couldn't see, and my adrenaline, shot through me pretty good. And you have to take down, in cop school, you have to go through and use batons and go through this obstacle, and then you have to go, fight what's called the red man. It's a guy in all this padding. You have to take him down and put him in handcuff position. So, all my adrenaline, I accidentally dislocated his shoulder. But I was breathing, and it was.
And how long does that bear spray last?
Well, once you finally get done with the obstacle course, they put your head in water, and then you have to kind of wipe it off and stuff. But it lasts about a day and a half, and we would have what's called reflash. So if you start sweating or working out, or you get rained on, it kind of feels like acid rain and things like that. So it lasts about a day and a half. You can also accidentally spread it to other parts of your body, which we found out during our showers. So. Yeah, it lasts a while.
Pretty potent stuff.
Yeah, pretty potent stuff.
So basically, you have this obstacle course that you have to go through. That would be tough, and then they decide to spray you with this, incapacitate you until you have to pass anyway.
Yep.
What happens if you don't?
If you don't pass?
Yeah. You have to repeat it the next day?
Well, no, we made sure that, they tried to make sure that you would pass, because no one wants to get sprayed again. And the thing is there was one female, she was going through, and she was just kind of throwing a fit, at one point, kind of was losing her mind. It's just was running around and screaming, and, they pretty much had to calm her down and said, do you want to get sprayed again, or do you want to go home tomorrow? Because you're either going to be a cop or you're not. And she finally got herself together and went through the course, but really, if you don't finish it, you're either going to get sprayed again or you're going to not be a police officer, and you just have to know that going into it.
So you're highly motivated to pass it.
Oh yeah.
So that was school. What happened after school?
So after school, I went back to Oregon State, and I realized I don't want to be a lawyer anymore. I want to be a police officer. And so I switched my degree to from pre-law or whatever I was in. Political science is what I was in. I switched all that and went to criminal justice major. And so I switched schools. So I transferred from Oregon State to Southern Oregon University. Started going to school. My dad came back from war, and we actually ended up drilling at the same reserve center. So my dad was at the reserve center, and so was I. And eventually I finished my education. I got my criminal justice degree. And I knew that I was going to get deployed soon. I was pretty shocked that I hadn't already. And so I volunteered. I said, all right, I'm ready for my deployment. And so as soon as I got my degree, a month later, I was on a bus to go through training at Fort Lewis, Washington to get ready for my deployment.
What was the gap time between the time you graduated and you actually got deployed? Because you were on reserve status that entire time.
Yep.
And what kind of requirements are required while you're on a reserve status? Is it 1 weekend a month?
Yep, 1 week in a month.
2 weekends a year?
Yeah.
2 weeks a year?
2 weeks a year.
And being military police, what was your job while you were on those exercises and stuff?
Basically to keep up on all my qualifications, with my weapons, and making sure that I, had my OC card. I never lost that because I never wanted to get sprayed again. But just making sure that, I knew everything, every law and procedure that came out, taking my test. I went from an E1, and during the course of my education and also my reserve time, I bumped up to an E5. So I almost outranked my father, which he wasn't too happy about. But we were nice and tied there for a minute. We were both E5s, and I just kept studying and kept going.
So in your 1 weekend a month, what was your job then? Besides, were you in charge of security for the events? Where were you stationed?
In Eugene, Oregon. So that's where I did
the armory there?
Yeah, yep. That's where I did my drill weekends. But what was weird is I wasn't actually attached to a company. And this is really complicated for some people to understand, but basically I was what was called an individual augmentee. I didn't really belong to one place. And so when I deployed, I didn't deploy with people I knew. I deployed with a whole bunch of IAs from all over the United States. We all came together, met at Fort Lewis, deployed together, and then went back to our reserve centers. So I wasn't part of a unit. I was just an individual deployer.
So when you deployed, did you go to classes then, or?
Yeah, I trained with the Army. I was on an Army mission, so I didn't even actually deploy with the Navy. All of us were Navy, but we were on an Army mission, so they called us the Narmy. But we did all old school training in Fort Lewis, Washington, in the old World War II barracks, which was fun because my grandfather actually had walked through those barracks at some point, way before me. But
So that would be co-ed then?
yeah, we had males and females in our group. I think there was 40 of us that were deployed to be prison guards, and I believe there was four females.
So you knew before you deployed that you were going to be a prison guard?
Yeah, they, at first I was supposed to be doing detainee ops, and then my mission changed last minute, and so then they ended up sending me to they ended up sending me paperwork.
What is detainee ops?
So there's two types of prison guards over in the Middle East right now. There's ones that guard like prisoners of wars and are basically the people over there. So not American citizens. And then there's people what I did was I actually guarded other soldiers that had been arrested for war crimes.
So Americans.
Other brothers and sisters in arms that had gotten in trouble overseas.
And where was this at?
I was in Kuwait.
Kuwait. And name of the prison?
It was the TFCF, Theater Field Confinement Facility.
And how many people would they have housed there then?
It varied at any given time or day. Sometimes we would have very minimal amount of people, only 10 prisoners. But then, depending on what was going on, sometimes we would be having 40, 50, 60,
And how many of you were there for?
Our group of people was about 40, and there was three different shifts at the time, day, swing, and graveyard. And then on each of those shifts, there was about 8 or 9 of us, I think. And so I was graveyard shift, and I was, I think, the only female on the graveyard shift at that time.
So you interacted a lot with the prisoners then? Mm-hmm. And how'd you like that?
I was just doing a job. I was there, 13 hours a day, most days, and we didn't have really any time to ourselves. So after a while, I started feeling kind of like a prisoner. You're almost in the prison as much as the prisoners are. You leave to sleep and you wake up and come back, and so you start feeling a little imprisoned at times, but.
Are you claustrophobic at all?
Now I am.
A little bit?
Yeah.
So how long were you a prison guard then?
My whole tour over there was about 10 months.
And all at the same location? Mm-hmm. And did you have any excitement while you were over there then?
Well, one of the cool things that we did was we would have to get the prisoners back home, and the inmates back home. And so we would actually transport the inmates secretly back to the United States on commercial flights. So that was one of the cool things I got to do, go through customs and security and kind of like flash my badge and walk with the inmate and transport them to a more secure facility in the United States.
Now, you didn't actually escort them all the way back.
I did.
You did?
I escorted them from the Middle East back into the United States, and then I would fly back to the Middle East again.
And how often did that occur?
I did 2 different missions.
That sounds like it'd be a lot of fun.
A lot of air miles.
So there were 2 of you for one inmate, or?
It all depended on what kind of risk they were. Sometimes there would be 2, sometimes there would be 3 or 4. It all depended on what their crime was and, what kind of risk they were.
So when your tour over there was over, what happened?
I came back home and, I struggled with a lot of trying to be fit into my own life again. I think that was my biggest struggle, was I didn't feel like I belonged in my own life. I had to re-meet my friends and kind of, I had changed so much from that experience. It changed my life. It was really hard for me to be who I once was.
What kind of changes are you talking about?
I had a newfound appreciation for my life. I appreciated every second a lot more, and I was afraid of dying, and a lot of my friends at that age were in their 20s, and still are, but they were more like careless and wanted to go do things and take these chances, and I was not like that anymore. I wanted to be more careful. I knew how precious life could be and how it could end in a second. I just wanted to hold on to that. I was a lot more quiet. My dad, thankfully, knew a lot of the signs of PTSD from when he had come back. So he was kind of walking with me during that journey and encouraging me to get help and therapy. And I did. And still a work in process, but it's changes who you are.
Well, being a prison guard, you're in a situation where you can't really actually relax at any time, because anybody could do anything pretty much at any moment, and you're the one that has to be able to stop it, even though it's happening behind you. And that must have been very, very stressful. How'd you deal with the stress?
I didn't. I didn't know how to deal with it.
Did you internalize it?
I did until I got home, and I was still always on edge, and that's. Sometimes I still catch myself like wondering who's behind me, or being ultra alert at any given time. I've learned through therapy and seeking help, through other veterans that it's okay to talk to someone. It's okay to get help. It's okay to say that you have PTSD, or to be okay with that. And that was the hardest part for me, was just being okay with reaching out and accepting who I was at that point. And now really how I take care of myself is, self-care. I have a record player, I listen to vinyl, I help, my job is I help house homeless veterans. I'm trying to get women in our community, veterans, together. That's really a huge passion for me. So I try to, take every day as a new one and take care of myself. I have a dog, I have a house, and just try to take care of myself. It's just one day at a time, really.
So you came back from your tour. How much time did you have left in your 8-year contract?
I had about 2 years left. I had, and it was 2 years inactive, but I was going to re-up. But what happened was I bought a house, and I had a terrible fall, and I broke my foot basically in 4 different places. I tore all my ligaments. So during that time, I was a reservist. I was supposed to be going to drill weekend, but I had this massive injury. I couldn't walk for about 10 months. I had to learn how to go downstairs and stuff again. I had 2 surgeries, and I have really painful arthritis and a really messed up foot now. So basically I went in to the reserves, and they knew what was going on with my foot, and they said, well, you still have 2 years of inactive reserves. So I took my 2 years of inactive reserves, hoping that I would be able to rehabilitate and chase people again, but that never happened. So I finished out my contract and got out honorably. Unfortunately, didn't get to re-enlist.
So during this time, what were you doing for your living then?
So at that time, I had a couple different jobs, but I eventually went into child welfare, where I investigated child abuse. I did that for about 1.5 years, and the stress of that job and trying to save every child and seeing and doing some of the things I did started re-triggering some things from my deployment. And so I I felt like I was on a deployment again, so I was always on edge. I was always trying to help these kids, and sometimes I didn't know if these children were safe, if I was doing everything. We were overworked and didn't have enough hours in the day to do all the cases. And so my PTSD got worse, and I eventually knew I had to walk away from that career.
So when this kicks in, you live in a high anxiety state all the time where you cannot relax, and even in sleep you're tormented and stuff, so you don't rest, so you lose your reserves, and then you're running on fumes all the time. So what did you do then?
I knew I needed to take care of myself. And even though I was trying to save the world, I really needed to stop and take care of myself. My mother died when I was 16, and she was very young, and I knew that I didn't want to die at a young age because of a heart attack or stress or anything like that. So I decided I needed to get out of that job and find something I was passionate about. And first thing that came to my mind was I just want to help other veterans in the area. And the only veteran I really knew that was a female was about one or two of my friends, and that was about it that I had worked with. And I thought, I know there's more than this. I have to find them. I have to find other women veterans, and be a support for them, and really make them feel, supported by other women veterans. And I decided to go take a huge pay cut and do a nonprofit. And I started helping house homeless veterans, and the pay is not there, but I really love what I do.
So you work for the VA then?
I don't. I work for a company called Access.
Access. And what's their mission?
They're a community action partner, community action agency, so they help with like food and different things for the community. But this particular grant is the SSVF grant, and their mission is to house every homeless veteran that wants to be housed and get to like a functional zero. So
what do you actually do then? You go out on the streets and go, hey, are you homeless?
I go out on the streets, yeah, and I find homeless individuals, and I say, are you a veteran? Is there anything I can help you with? Sometimes they just want a sleeping bag. They don't want my help. Sometimes they don't even want to talk to me, and that's okay. Sometimes they really do have an alcohol addiction or a mental health issue. I help get them past those barriers. I walk with them so they're not alone. And it's one veteran walking with another veteran to take them any place that they need to go in order to get past those barriers to get them housed.
So you become their advocate?
Their advocate, they're the person that is pretty much there whenever they need them.
And how long do you stay with the individual then?
As long as I think that they need it. Sometimes, they get into their house and they're like, I'm good. And other times they get into their home and they're still having barriers. They need someone to talk to. They are still struggling with mental health issues. So I'll have them for months after that.
So a couple years down the road, they might struggle and come back and ask for your help?
Yeah, or I might still be talking to them a couple years down the road. I only just started working there about in October, so, but some of the clients I started with in October, I still have today, and I probably will have a couple of them for years to come.
So since October, how many people would you say that you've actually impacted in some way? Giving somebody who doesn't have a sleeping bag in winter is impacting their lives. Mm-hmm. So not just rescued, but...
I would probably say a couple hundred.
A couple hundred?
Yeah.
In that short period of time, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. So what do you like most about your job now? That
I can help people. That it's, when I show up, they feel like there's at least a little bit of hope that I can put in their lives.
Well, you said when we were starting off, that you went into the military and you saw an occupation where you could serve. Mm-hmm. And so you found another way of serving people, because serving people is very important to you. Mm-hmm. Why is serving people important to you?
I just think it takes a special person to help other people. And if you're one of those people that has that want or that need, that you have to follow it. This is my calling in my life. I don't know what's pushing me towards that. I just know that I want to make an impact on the world. And I can't do that by thinking always about myself.
Well, I think that requires a person of high character. And one of the qualities that I think that you exhibit the most is that you are compassionate for people you don't even know. And that's a very high character standard in my book. So, is there anything you'd like to share with us before we end? Any experience you had? Any antidote?
I would just tell people, if they're thinking about joining the military, it changes your life. And really be serious about it and really think about it before you join. If you want to join, join. It will make you a better person in every single way.
How did it make you a better person?
I think I just have a bigger appreciation for every single day. I think I love my country in a way I can't even explain because of the fact that I served overseas. And I did something, I was willing to die for something that was bigger than myself. And I think that is an experience I can't explain to people, but I know that my life feels complete because of that. And I was glad to do it, and I would do it again.
So what would your recommendation be for children considering the military?
Yeah.
Would you say that it's going to benefit their lives, or?
Some people join, and it does. And others, it doesn't. It all depends on what you make of it. And if you have a positive attitude going into it, if it's something you want to do and you continue to be positive and you want it to be something good, it will be. You just have to continue to work hard and follow the mottos and, be who you are. Don't lose track of that, but really just love what you do and do it. But the second you start making it, a bad thing and you start complaining about it and whining about it, your experience is exactly what you're making it. So, join if you're serious about joining, but it's a life decision. It's life altering.
How hard is it to live under a command structure where your boss has the ability to tell you something and you don't have the ability to resign?
You just do it. I mean, that's the thing. I knew going into that I was giving my life away, basically. I signed my life away. I was going in there and I didn't have a choice about anything else. So knowing that going into it, when they were like, drop and do this and give me 20 or do this or walk over here, I did that. It's a lot different when you get out and then you have to make your own decisions. So it's kind of nice. You really don't have to think about much when you're in. You just do what you're told, and then when you get out, that's the hard part. You got to really start making your own decisions.
Well, the first thing the drill sergeant said to me in basic was, I own you.
Yep. And that's true.
But then there's a lot of things that the young adults struggle with, such as rent, utilities, medical, and stuff that in the military you don't even have to give a second thought to. Mm-hmm. While you're active duty, they take care of all of your needs for you, basically, even though they still, quote unquote, own you.
Yeah.
So is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
I don't think so.
Well, I want to thank you, Shannon, for joining us.
Yeah.
It was a very interesting story. Thank
Cool.
you.
Thank you.
This is Veterans History Project. Thank you for joining us.